morning, everybody. How are you this morning? Good. Good. I'll tell you what, I am so excited to be here talking to adults. Oh my God. I'm normally, like 80% of my presentations are to junior high school kids. So if at any point any of you want to text or talk or make out, feel free to do it. It will not bother. I'm just kidding back for sure. And so, yeah, if you want to have earphones in or you want to text like this, that's fine. It will not mess me up. I think if all of you keep staring at me, that will mess me up. So, yeah. So feel free to do whatever you need to do during this presentation. And like I said, it's an honor to be here. I'm real interactive, so I'm going to look for certain things. So where are my note takers? Where are some people that are going to try to write down everything I say? One. Okay, that's about right. Where am I? I'm going to write down the important stuff. A couple of you, right? And where are the people that are already thinking about lunch? Go ahead. Thank you for being honest. Yeah. If you're a note taker, now, I don't do PowerPoint presentations because literally every single one of my presentations, I'm updating information almost weekly when it comes to marijuana and stuff like that. So what's going to happen at the end of this presentation, if you want all the notes on this specific presentation, I have my professional note taker. Where are you, Chris? Chris is in the back there. Stand up real quick. I'm right away so everyone can see you. That's my wife, Chris. So yeah, go ahead and clap for her real quick for putting on the video. Yeah. She is going to take all the notes from this presentation. So if you're interested in these notes, just hand her a business card or some kind of email thing, and she'll be quick to get that to you. Does that make sense, everybody? Oh, good. All right, like I said, my name is Lozano. I have the opportunity to travel all across the nation, talking to kids, adults, groups like this, when it comes to drug and alcohol information. And so straight out of high school, I started working in the treatment field with an organization called Teen Challenge, but I come from a non-use background. So personally, never been drunk, never smoked a cigarette, never tried weed or vaping or anything like that. But I came from a family that was crazy when it came to drugs and alcohol, just crazy. My oldest brother, who is 17 years older than me, when I was 5, my very first experience with my 22-year-old brother was watching him go to prison for smuggling heroin into the United States. My other brother, who's 14 years older than me, was a drinker and a fighter. So every time he got drunk, he usually got in a fight with dad or mom or police or somebody. My sister, who is 7 years older than me, this is crazy, and it's the complete opposite end, ran a lot of cocaine, and I believe some of it may have even been from El Chapo, from El Paso, Texas, up to Chicago, Florida, California. So she ran a lot of cocaine. My sister's done so much meth, they can't put teeth in her mouth anymore. Have you guys heard of a term called meth mouth? Who's heard of meth mouth? Oh, pretty much everybody. Yeah, that's my sister. And so they aren't able to put teeth in her mouth anymore just because of how much meth she used. I'll tell you what, that makes it really weird being Hispanic at Christmas time. I gotta make her a tamale smoothie, you know. Drink up. Want some frijoles in that? You know. I love that joke because I love looking at the adults like, do I laugh? Do I not laugh? Is making fun of his meth head sister? What do I do in this situation? She said it was okay to use that joke, and she can remember. But anyway, she said it was fine. I got the paperwork on that. My dad was a drinker and a fighter as well. And so anytime my dad got drunk, he would end up fighting. My mom was the weird kind of alcoholic. How many of you have seen people that drink, they get drunk, but they try to act like they're not drunk? Who's seen these people? Don't call out names. Right? Yeah. Right? And that was my mom. My mom, I think she was ashamed of her alcoholism, so she tried to hide it. But we knew she was drinking. You know, I'd come home from school as a junior high kid, my mom would be holding a drink, walking backwards in the house. I'm okay. I'm like, Mom, you're not okay. You're moonwalking. You're at that phase, you know, so it's not good. And then my mom had all these little secret recipes that alcoholic moms have sometimes, like margarita meatloaf, tequila tacos. You know, in the morning she's eating Corona Cheerios because they're magically delicious. You know, never brought my friends over for dinner because they'd leave with a buzz. My friends would be like, dude, can your mom take us home? And I'd be like, no, look at the woman. You know, she just had a 6-pack of burritos. She's not going anywhere. You know. So it was crazy growing up in this house as a little kid, and I just saw crazy stuff. And I just, as a little kid, had all these questions. Why? Why? Why is my dad, the best guy in the world, give you his last dollar, starts drinking, and then he wants to fight everybody? Why is my mom, this super nice lady, and she'll do anything for you, starts drinking, and then she thinks it's okay to hit us? Why did my sister smuggle cocaine across the nation like that? Why did my brother smuggle heroin in the United States? And I had all these questions, why? So as a little kid, I just had all these questions, and everybody I would ask had the same answer. It's because of alcohol. Like, yeah, but why? And it's because they drink. Yeah, but why? And I had all these questions. So in high school, I actually did my very first presentation on alcohol. And it was called Pee, Puke, and Pass Out. And it was way different than what they'd ever seen before. And it kind of has continued on from that point. So the thing that I like to do with junior high school students, and with you guys, is just answer the why question. I'm not for weed, I'm not against weed, I just want people to have great information so they can make a solid decision. How many of you work with youth? How many youth workers out there? Oh wow, almost everybody here, that's great. And so we're gonna cover a lot of that kind of information. So, non-use background. Started working in Teen Challenge at the very beginning. My last formal job, where I was getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, was with Loma Linda University Medical Center. I developed a program for them, where we were working with kids in the area of drugs and alcohol, 6-week program. I know this is gonna sound crazy to some of you, but we had an amazing track record. 92% of the kids that went through our program did not go back to using drugs and alcohol 18 months after graduating our program. That's how long the hospital kept track of them. Now when I say 92, some of you are like, that's crazy, right? And it is. But we were trying all these new methods to get information across. So we're gonna talk about weed this morning. The very first thing we're gonna talk about is what happens to a kid when they smoke weed. Before it starts affecting their lungs, before it starts affecting their memory, before it starts affecting the way that they think and how much they love it. If you're taking notes, here's your first note. The very first thing that happens to a kid when they start smoking weed is it causes them to be an effective liar. I'm not saying a smart liar, but an effective liar. Because of how it changes the way that the brain is functioning, it helps them to be able to lie more effectively. How many of you have ever seen like the show Cops on TV? The police officers pull that guy over and they'll say, is this your car? No, it's a friend's car. What's your friend's name? I don't know. I just picked it up, right? He's lying. And it's obvious to see, but in his brain, he feels like he's telling the truth. Then they pull the individual out of the car, they pat him down, they reach in his pocket. Whose meth is this? I don't know. These aren't my pants. Are you wearing somebody else's pants? Yes, I am. But what's happening is they're becoming an effective liar. Here's how it works inside the brain. Right? If I looked at everybody this morning and I said, all of you had coffee this morning, right? Pretty much everybody would say yes. Now, when I asked you if you had coffee this morning, what your brain did is it went to memory. And this is where it defaults first, and it goes to memory, and it searched memory, and it said, oh yeah, I did have coffee. The answer is yes. Did all of you take a shower this morning? Hopefully everybody's memory went to, or brain went to memory, right? And you said, yes, I had a shower this morning. Did all of you brush your teeth? Did all of you put on shoes? Did all of you, and what would happen is I would ask you a series of questions. Then I would ask you a question like, all of you this morning woke up and robbed a bank, right? Now, for some of you in this room, inside your head, you wanted to shout the answer yes, right? So what your brain did right there is it defaulted to imagination. It searched memory, and it said, no, I didn't rob a bank. And then it went over to imagination, and now your brain had an opportunity. Do I answer from memory, or do I answer from imagination? This is what happens with kids, because that gauge inside their head starts to get messed up. Kid comes home intoxicated, or high, or smoking weed, and what happens is mom will ask him, you were smoking weed, right? What does the kid say? No, right? No, I can tell your eyes are all red, you were smoking weed. No, right? And so what happens is the more that they do that, the more the brain defaults to imagination. So it messes up how the brain is going to present that information because it's going over to memory. Let's talk a little bit about weed. 1969, get ready to shout out an answer. 1969, there was a little concert that happened back east. What was the name of that little concert? Woodstock. Good. Yeah, high school kids don't know that. Okay, Woodstock. Nod your head if you've heard the names of any of these bands. Okay, Peter, Paul, and Mary. Okay, good. The Mamas and the Papas. Good. Yeah, when I say this, high school kids are like, those real names? I'm like, yeah, they're not breakfast items. Yeah, they're actually out. Let me see who else was out there. Eric Clapton. Okay, Jimi Hendrix. Right? Carlos Santana, Jefferson Airplane, good, yeah. Black Sabbath, yeah. All of you are like, oh yeah, that's the foundation of rock and roll. Okay. 1969, Woodstock's taking place. And what happened is Eric Clapton goes on stage. Eric Clapton's up there jamming on stage, He tells his roadie, go buy me some weed. His little roadie goes out into the audience, comes back with a Ziploc bag of weed and hands it to Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton goes backstage, rolls up this joint, sits at a table with Carlos Santana. Rolling Stone magazine takes this famous picture of Eric Clapton, where Eric Clapton is holding out this joint to Rolling Stone magazine. Carlos Santana's in the back blowing smoke out of his mouth. The caption underneath the photo says, "This is the very best weed anybody will ever smoke." 1969, Eric Clapton, all of those people were so happy, and they were smoking weed right around 7% THC. 7% THC, and they were loving it. 2019. Let's see the name. Anybody know Jenny Lewis? Right? No? Wiz Khalifa? A couple of you? Who else is out there smoking weed? We have Snoop Dogg. Yeah. Snoop Dogg smokes weed at a whole different level. That dude like rolls it up in carpet, you know. I'm not sure Snoop knows where he's at all the time. He did a New Year's Eve concert out in San Diego. And you guys understand this because you're kind of Southern California. I understand California how it works. San Diego, Los Angeles, about 2.5 hours apart, right? So Snoop Dogg, and I wanted to go see this concert, and some of my friends went. And Snoop Dogg, a couple years back, you know, the lights go low, about 11 o'clock at night. Snoop Dogg comes walking out on stage, all cool. He's got that cool Snoop Dogg look in San Diego. You know, he looks out over the audience. There's this, you know, respectable hush, religious hush that's fallen over the audience. Snoop Dogg looks out over the audience and he hollers, "Los Angeles, how you doing?" Everybody's like, "What? I can't hear you, Los Angeles, make some noise." Somebody comes right on stage, whispers in his ears, like, "San Diego, how you doing?" Everybody's like, "He knows we're here," you know. I'm not sure Snoop knows where he's at all the time, right? So 2019, the stuff that's coming across the border, being bussed by DEA, is running right around 21% THC. Whole different weed, okay? Anybody eating a cookie or a popsicle or any type of edible, what an edible is gonna run at is right around 85% THC. Anybody know what kids are smoking nowadays? Dabs or wax. Wax. And so when a kid is smoking wax, they're smoking weed that's running right around 98% THC. Understand this, the conversation should not be about weed anymore. Weed is pretty much off the table. It is. All we're talking about now is THC content. We were doing an 8th grade presentation about 6 weeks ago, or right before summer ended, and we opened it up to questions to 8th graders. They were asking all these great questions about weed. One kid raised his hand, he goes, "What's a bong?" And I says, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "I've seen it and I've heard it, but I have no idea what it is. What's a bong?" And other kids are like, "Yeah, what do you do with that?" And I said, "Do you smoke weed out of it?" Like, "Do you put the dab in there?" I'm like, no. And so I gave him these great instructions on how to use bong. I did, I'm not that dumb, okay? Yeah. And so we talked about that. But kids, understand this. A majority of kids aren't sitting down anymore, you know, rolling up a little joint and passing it around. It's now coming through vapes. But a majority of them are smoking wax. It's running right around 98% THC. So this is a whole different thing than kids sitting around. Now there's a few that are gonna sit around and smoke weed the old-fashioned way, but that would be like watching a TV where you actually had to get up and change the channel. Nobody wants to do that. The problem with weed is we think that it's a safe product. We think that it's okay, but for kids, unbelievably detrimental. A little history about marijuana. Dun, dun, dun. Marijuana has been on the planet 1.5 million years. 1.5 million years. Now, when we think about that, we think, man, 1.5 million years, that's a long time, right? In Earth's history time, that's not very long. Dinosaurs walked the planet 65 million years ago. So the thing is, dinosaurs are like a 65-year-old person. Marijuana is like a kid that's a year and a half old. But because it's 1.5 million years, we think that it is safe. Here's what's crazy about 1.5 million years. From the stuff that I've read, as human beings, we've only been using fire for about 1 million years. Yeah, we figured out how to contain it. Now, when I started thinking about that, I thought maybe that's why cavemen invented fire, you know, and see some guy with a rock bong, what do you do with it? Let's light it, fire, you know, and they make rotisserie chicken out of it. And so the thing is, marijuana's been around longer than fire, 1.5 million years. The Egyptians, way back in the day, the Egyptians used it. When they were building the pyramids, there was traces of marijuana, there's containers that have marijuana. Now understand, there's way more than just 3 pyramids. There's thousands of pyramids all around the world. One of the pyramids that they found in Egypt, not a very big one, but it was built as a tomb. What they had done is they had put all of these things inside this pyramid, and the Egyptians had figured out how to vacuum pack this pyramid. So there was all this stuff inside of it. In 1962, they had this debate. Do we open up this pyramid? Do we not open up this pyramid? What do we do? Well, they finally decided to open it up. What they did is when they opened it up, they sent in a little camera and they found all of this amazing stuff inside this pyramid. One of the things that they found is they found this guy that had died, and so they had mummified him. Next to him, they found 2 male and 2 female servants. They found a horse. They found artwork. They found weapons. They found tools. They found all this amazing stuff, and there were all these little jars. When they started to open up all these jars, they realized there's dates, sunflowers, figs, fish. There was a cabinet that had 800 roasted duck in there. One of the jars that they opened up contained marijuana, type of weed. So yeah, the Egyptians used it. I don't know if the roasted duck was for the munchies later or not. You know, move it out of the way and there's a Pop-Tart box behind it. But the thing is, it has been around for a long time. The Romans used it. The Romans were amazing the way that they used marijuana. And so the Romans was one of the strongest militaries that were out there, and a lot of that was based on how they used marijuana. They used it as a medicine. They also used the hemp and made these raincoats out of it. When a Roman soldier pulled his bow and fired his arrow, on average, Roman arrows went about 600 yards further than their enemies' arrows, because they made a composite of sinew and hemp in the bowstrings, so they got a further pull on that. Now what that meant is that their enemies could be further out and the Romans could still hit them. That's what made them the strong military might that they were. Sails on the ships were made out of hemp. They made these raincoats. Amazing stuff that they did with marijuana. The White House, when we got ready to build the White House in Washington, D.C., there was huge fields of marijuana that just grew all over the place. So the thing is, it gives us this illusion, since it's been around, that it's safe. Let's say somebody had a marijuana joint sitting on a table, minding its own business. That marijuana joint is going to have pretty close to 488 traceable chemicals inside of it. 488 traceable chemicals. I'm not saying they're good, I'm not saying they're bad. There's just 488 different chemicals in there. Once somebody takes that marijuana joint, they light it, and they start to smoke it, what happens is 488 chemicals makes it jump up to over 2,000 different chemicals. Out of the 488, 66 of those go straight to the brain. And if you were to list those out in order, 1 through the number 66 right here, on the list is the 9th main element. What's the main element in marijuana that gets you high? THC, right, THC. Stands for, that little triangle is delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol. Delta 8 is the CBD that we talk so much about. So the thing is, delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol. This is the 9th element in there that goes straight to the brain. It's a cannabinoid. This is the one that everybody's looking for. Okay. Big, huge. Let's see if anybody's ever heard me speak before. What does the marijuana plant use THC for? Anybody have an idea? We've got some bonus points here. Just go and shout it out. Any idea?
Repelling animals.
Yes, exactly. Repelling animals. Good. Let's give that person a round of applause right there. Nice. You're going to be first in line for lunch, so that's your prize right there. So good. Yeah. So the thing is, THC is the natural pesticide that the plant uses to protect itself. Now here's what's amazing. Marijuana are social plants. If somebody was going to be smoking old school marijuana, what are they going to be smoking? Male or female plant? Female, exactly. Go ladies, whoop, right? They're the stronger of the two plants. The male plant's just hanging out, and you know why. You don't understand, I'll explain to you later. But the thing is, the male plant is just hanging around for one reason only. The female plant is what people are going to be smoking. The female plant has the ability to increase and decrease her THC level according to what she needs to do. But one of the things that they do with THC is she uses it to repel bugs, and she also uses it as a signal that she's ready to mate. What makes me a little bit proud and a little bit ashamed is my people, the Hispanic people, have discovered how to increase and decrease the THC level back in 1983. 84 is where 84 is where they started to discover this. But THC is the natural pesticide that the plant uses to protect itself. There were some videos on YouTube some time back showing about THC and how it repels animals. You got a little marijuana plant, a little caterpillar comes along, starts to eat on this marijuana plant. Two things will happen with it. One, it will not like the flavor of marijuana. So what it does is it drifts off and goes to another plant because it doesn't like the flavor of THC. Anybody have an idea what happens if it eats too much THC? Doesn't die. It gets high. Yeah. Little caterpillar just starts staring at stuff for a long time. Someday I'm going to be a butterfly. But it is amazing how it affects caterpillars because it affects humans the same way. What happens is this little caterpillar eats too much THC, and all of a sudden it's not concerned with its surroundings. So what they've shown is this little caterpillar may go to a little warm spot on a leaf and just hang out while it's digesting this THC. What happens is birds are able to identify these caterpillars who are not aware of their surroundings or attempting to protect themselves, and birds very easily pick them off. I don't know what happens if a bird eats too much. That's an 8th grade question all the time. Is there, another high that happens? I don't know. I guess the bird flies all crazy or something. But the thing that happens is the caterpillars do the same thing when they start to stare at stuff. So the problem is THC, let's say a kid smokes it, it goes down into their system. Within a matter of 5 seconds, that THC penetrates the lining of the lungs and goes into the bloodstream. Now, what THC is looking for inside the bloodstream are fat cells. So a little THC is high, it's hitchhiking in the bloodstream, all this stuff's going by. All of a sudden, this little fat cell comes around the corner. Little THC looks at that fat cell and goes, man, I like that little fat cell. I think that little fat cell's cool. As soon as that little fat cell comes by it, THC jumps on the back of that fat cell and starts to travel all around the body. Using me as an example, where do you think I carry most of my fat? Oh, you guys are great, man. I see you looking at it, but you're not saying anything, right? In my taco holder right here. Right? Yeah, that's right, my taco holder. My wife and I were at a restaurant last night, and it's so funny because the waitress comes up to me and she goes, sir, would you like a to-go box? I looked at her and said, ma'am, I am a to-go box. I'm not going to take food out of here. Yeah. I have a lot of fat in this area, right? My mom says it's my cheeks, but my brain has a large level and high concentration of fat. So THC gets on the back of that fat cell, rides it around through the system, goes up into the brain. The fat cell pushes off that THC, fat cell goes back out, but once THC gets inside the brain, it doesn't know how to get back out. So it stays swirling around inside the brain, messing around with stuff that's going in there. How many of you work with kids that smoke weed that have trouble remembering stuff? This is that, right? Okay. Here's the reason why they have trouble remembering stuff and stuff doing with time, okay? Let's say there's a huge wall behind you, okay? And on this wall, there are 10 billion doors. And every little door is going to have a label. Girls' names, guys' names, directions, passwords, football plays, movie lines, recipes, time, okay? Now this is how a brain is supposed to work. Information comes into the brain reads it and goes, hey, what are you? A girl's name? Oh, right here behind girl named Dora. Cool. What are you? A color? Follow me behind color door. What are you? Math problem? Follow me behind math problem door. That's how the brain is supposed to work. Let me go inside everybody's head and open up a door real quick, okay? Just to show you how it works. I'm going to say a word. As soon as I say this word, get a picture of something inside your head, okay? Elephant. Everybody get an elephant inside your head. Nod your head when you have an elephant. Okay, good. How many of you saw a picture of an elephant? Okay, quite a few of you. How many of you saw a drawing of an elephant? A few of you. This is brand new to our society. How many of you saw a little video clip of an elephant? That's fairly new to us. Oh man, that's crazy, right? Did anybody see anything other than that? Did anybody see the letters, E-L-E-P-H-A-N-T? Very rarely do I find that. Every now and then I'll find a kid who thinks like that. For a kid that thinks like that, their brain works different than our brain. When I said the word elephant, their brain was able to go to multiple doors and open up the E-L-E-P-H-A-N-T door. So what happened, when I said the word elephant, your brain ran to this door that had a poster of an elephant on it, cranked it open, out comes an elephant, right? I don't know why I was dancing, but yeah, but an elephant came out. That's how the brain is supposed to work. Here's what makes me sad for kids that smoke weed, study, smoke weed, study, smoke weed. Information comes into the brain, and the brain greets it differently. Information comes into the brain, but THC greets that thing, goes, hey, high fives. What are you? What? A girl's name? I don't know where that door's at. I'm going to put you behind janitor door. You're cool, I know you're there. What are you? You're a math problem? Follow me. I'm going to put you behind color door. Here's the part that makes me sad. This kid who studied, smoke weed, study, information comes into their brain, important information, stuff that they need to know. So the information comes into the brain, and the brain greets like, hey, man, you look important, what are you? George Washington information for a test later? Follow me, George, I know where that door's at. This is the Del Taco door, but that means George Washington, okay? So what happens is the brain puts this important information because of marijuana behind some weird door. This poor kid who studied, smoked weed, studied, goes to take this test, and the very first question says, George Washington did what? The brain now runs to the George Washington door, cranks it up, and what comes out? A burrito, right? Yeah. George Washington did burritos. And so for the kid that smokes weed, even though that, I mean, to us, that sounds completely crazy. For a kid that smokes weed, this is how their brain is operating because it's pulling out information in the wrong spot. Let me go inside all of your heads. I'm going to open up another door. Let me show you how fast the brain works, okay? I'm going to open up this door, and for some of you, this door hasn't been opened up for years, okay? Now, the problem with opening up this door is it's going to be open for you pretty much the rest of today. A lot of you are actually probably going to look up this song later, okay? So I'm going to sing the very first part of the song. You immediately sing the next line right back to me, okay? Some of you look really scared right now. You should be, man. A big dude's going to climb into your head real quick, okay? But watch how fast your brain works, okay? Here we go. Get ready. Get ready to sing the next line right back, okay? So, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Oh, yeah. Some of you still have the moves inside your head, right? How many of you that song came back to you immediately? Like, literally immediately. How many of you have not heard that song in years? Not in years, right? Who can say safely like 7 years, right? Let me get that song out of your head real quick. Let me see if you remember this one. Everybody clap your hands. Yeah. I love that because you don't know when to stop. Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is, that's how your brain is supposed to operate. Now, as we get older, our brain gets full of information, and our brain has no trouble recording information. It has trouble retrieving information. So for a poor kid who smokes weed, and this is just what kills them inside, they feel like school is failing them, or they feel like they're a dummy, or they feel like they can't make it in school. But the problem is, information's going inside their head, and it's getting mixed up and going to a weird place. Let me show you some more stuff on how it's going to affect the brain. How many people in this room have been around a 4-year-old one time or another? Okay, good. How many of you have been around a 4-year-old you like, right? Take selfies with them, you eat cookies, you love hanging out with them, okay? Who's been around that 4-year-old you know is the son and daughter of Satan? Who's been around that one, right? You put them to bed, you look on the back of their head, they have that number 665.5, right? Little Damien is super close, right? All right, some audience participation. Here we go. Get ready to call out an answer. 4-year-old is sitting on a sofa watching a movie on their little iPad. Somebody comes and rips that iPad away from them. What does a 4-year-old do? They cry. Good. 4-year-old has their favorite little blanket. Somebody comes and rips that blanket away from them. What do? Cry. That's going to be the answer for everything. 4-year-old, they want to go outside. They can't go outside. What do? Cry. Time for a 4-year-old to go to bed. They don't want to go to bed. What do? Cry. 4-year-old wants a cookie before dinner. They can't have that cookie. What do? Cry. 4-year-old wets their little pants. What do? Hopefully cry, right? Yeah. The evil one's like changing time, babysitter. Right? Here's what a 4-year-old's little brain looks like, okay? 4-year-old's little brain looks like this. Small letter I, small letter I over this big, huge, gigantic letter E, okay? Small letter I over this big, huge, gigantic letter E. I stands for intelligence. E stands for emotion. Emotion, yeah. Most of the time, junior high kids holler out evil, but it's emotion, yeah. 4-year-olds have very little intelligence, a whole bunch of emotion. That's just the chemical makeup of their little brain. That's the way their little brain works, okay? And it works perfect for us as human beings way back in the day. But at a point, it needs to start changing to more intelligence, okay? Age 5, the brain starts to make new connections. Age 15, 16, the brain's making some really big connections. Age 21 for young girls, 23 for guys, is where the brain opens up the last part and reaches the frontal lobe part of the brain. So young ladies' frontal lobe starts working right around age 21. That's where it starts. For guys, it starts working around age 23. So guys get 2 extra years of being crazy, okay? Now everybody in this room is over the age of 25, or the majority of us are, right? And so we think different than 4-year-old us. The way our brain works now, it looks like this. Big, huge, gigantic letter I over a small letter E. We think different than 4-year-old us, okay? Let me ask you some questions. You're sitting down watching a movie on your iPad, somebody rips the iPad from you, what do? Cry. There's always one. Imagination, right? Yeah. We get it back, right? Somebody takes our blanket away from us, what do? We get it back. Somebody tells us we can't go outside, but we want to go outside, what do? Go outside. There's a cookie there before dinner, we shouldn't eat it, but we want that cookie, what do? We eat it, right? Time to go to bed, we're not ready to go to bed, what do? Stay up, yeah. We wet our pants, what do? We cry, right? There's some emotion left. Dang it, that age came too fast, man. That's why they make those products. Okay, so the thing is, there's still a little bit of emotion left inside of us. Now here's what happens. When a kid starts smoking weed, and during my workshop, we're going to talk way more about this in greater detail on how to talk to the kid that's smoking weed. But the thing is, for a kid that's smoking weed, what they're starting to discover now is a brain is operating like this, okay? So 15, 16-year-old, their brain's starting to operate on more intelligence and emotion. But what happens, as they start to smoke weed, what happens is it kicks it back over here. I'll just put the letter D up there for drugs, because a whole bunch of different drugs do this. What marijuana does is it causes the brain to function on a, hey, you get the word die. That's kind of cool. Message. The thing is, the brain begins to operate on an emotional level, not an intellectual level. So the thing is, these are 2 different languages, and like I said in our workshop, we're going to talk more about this, because this is what our program ran off of, is this model right here. But the thing is, a kid's brain starts to function on emotion, not intelligence. The brain loves it. The brain loves it because it doesn't have to do anything. All it has to do is sit there and not put any effort in anything, and whatever emotion comes its way, the brain goes in that direction. This is how it's affecting the brain. Nod your head if you've seen this. Now there's a lot of research coming out right now on brain development and youth. Now, in the United States, it's real difficult to do research on marijuana just because of how we have marijuana scheduled. But there's a ton of information coming out of Europe and Australia. 2 types of websites out there. Yay, marijuana's awesome. Boo, marijuana's bad, right? If you go over here and you type in, is marijuana good for you? What do they say on this side? Heck yeah, it's going to save the economy. It cures everything that's out there. It stops every disease. It's, and it's just, man, it's hard to find something CBD is not good for nowadays, or marijuana, because it's just good for everything, right? But if you go over here and you type in, is marijuana good for you? What do they say? No, it's terrible, right? Smoke it, you're going to end up going to hell, right? And so you have these 2 different types of websites. Well, here's the thing, right? The information I'm giving you is not based on yay or boo on marijuana. This is research that doctors have done that don't care. They don't. All they want to know is what is going to take place when somebody smokes weed. The information that's on my website, all of the stuff that's on there, we do a lot of background check before we put a study out. If a research project is done by a normal national organization for the right of marijuana legalization, I think that's going to be a little bit skewed. But the same type of thing with CASA, Center for Alcohol and Substance Abuse. Both of them have agendas. I'm looking for hospitals and doctors that don't care. They just want to know. So the thing is, where are they putting research in? A lot of research coming out on the brain. Here we go. Here's some of the stuff that they're starting to see with kids. Information coming out of Colorado. One of the things that happens with kids that smoke weed is frontal lobe development, some stuff that doesn't happen. This child right here does not have a sense of time or urgency. So there's no sense of time or urgency. So one of the things that they have trouble doing is gauging how long or how to time something to get there. So all of you had to be here this morning for breakfast, let's say at 8 o'clock. Probably a majority of you got up at 6:30, you got ready, you made your way down here. If you walked in that door at 8:01, the frontal lobe part of the brain is what got you there on time. Kids who smoke weed can't put that kind of information together. If they have to be at a movie at 3 o'clock and they live 20 minutes away, this kid may leave 10 minutes before he has to be there, thinking that he's still going to make it on time. I see this happen all the time with teachers. There's a kid that smokes weed on a regular basis. They have a 5-minute passing period. They'll talk with somebody for 4 minutes. The teacher will tell them that they need to get to class. They only have 1 minute to get there, and it's going to take them 3 minutes to get, walk there. This kid just has this leisurely stroll to class. There's no sense of urgency because they don't understand time. It's a weird thing that takes place inside the brain. So they have trouble with time and sense of urgency. The other thing that happens with this kid is they operate